My half-brother, Stephen, and I share the same father. My memories of my biological mother are almost a blank slate, just a faded, gentle smile in a photo frame on my dad's dresser, and a story I was told countless times. She died from a hemorrhage during my birth. The 4 years after that, just my dad and I, were a hazy, quiet time. Then, when I was 4, a woman named Linda walked into our lives and became my stepmom. I never resented my dad for remarrying. Even as a young child, I could vaguely sense the heavy fatigue he carried, trying to be both a mom and a dad. He worked at the factory all day, then came home and clumsily combed my hair and told me stories at night. His sighs were the soundtrack to my childhood. So when Linda appeared, I accepted her almost with a sense of relief. To make sure our new family could be harmonious, I started calling her Mom in my clear, childish voice from the day they got married. I naively thought that if she was happy, Dad would be happy, and as long as they were both happy, my world would be safe. In the years before Stephen was born, Linda was genuinely good to me. She'd remember I liked strawberry ice cream, pat my back when I woke up from nightmares, and get me pretty dresses for my birthday. That warmth, for a while, made me feel like I had a mother again. However, after Stephen was born, everything subtly changed. The delicate balance in the air was broken, and I could clearly feel that I had shifted from daughter to stepdaughter. Linda's love, like a lamp that once lit up the whole room, now had all its light focused on Stephen. I understood that Stephen was her flesh and blood, and it was human nature for her to favor him. But that feeling of being ignored, for a child, still felt like a bucket of cold water in winter. Stephen would break the most expensive vase in the house, and she'd laugh and say, "That means peace every year," then turn around and warn me not to leave my toys lying around so Stephen wouldn't trip. Stephen would get into a fight at school, and she'd lovingly check him for injuries and furiously go to school to confront the other parents. But when I cried, feeling wrong because of a misunderstanding, she'd just impatiently say, "You're so old now, why are you still crying like a baby?" To win back that meager attention, and to avoid making things difficult for my dad, I chose to become the perfect daughter. I poured all my energy into my studies, and straight A's on my report card were the only way I could show them my worth. I thought if I was good enough, they'd eventually give me more than a passing glance. Elementary school, middle school, high school, I practically swept all the awards, and my name was constantly on the school's honor roll. Yet, these proud achievements never seemed to truly touch their hearts. I clearly remember the day I received my acceptance letter from that prestigious university. I excitedly rushed home, handing them the weighty envelope. My dad just took a glance, gave a slightly tired smile, and said, "Not bad, keep up the good work." Linda was more concerned about what was for dinner, and just casually asked, "Is the tuition expensive?" There was no celebration, no hugs, not even a phone call to relatives to share the good news. It felt like throwing your hardest punch only to hit cotton, silent, with only you knowing how disappointing it was. In stark contrast, a few weeks later, one of my cousins got into a local community college, and my aunt and uncle threw a huge banquet at their house, inviting dozens of relatives and friends. At the party, my parents smiled and raised their glasses, praising my cousin for being promising. That genuine pride and joy was something I had never seen on their faces. In that moment, I fully understood that, in their hearts, Stephen and those so-called family members were ultimately different from me. My college life felt like a long-planned escape. I paid for most of my tuition and living expenses with scholarships and part-time jobs, trying to rely on my family as little as possible. There, I met many wonderful teachers and friends, and also the most important person in my life, my husband, Mark. Mark was mature and steady. He appreciated my independence and resilience. The way he looked at me, there was no pity, only pure love and respect. Being with him, I felt completely accepted for the first time. After graduating from college, I smoothly entered the public service sector with my excellent grades and internship experience, landing a well-paying and very stable job. Career, love, everything I had once longed for seemed to have materialized. While preparing for the wedding, I chose to reconcile with the past grievances. I told myself that no matter what, they raised me, and I should fulfill my childhood promise, to be a good and filial daughter to them. So, I gave the $20,000 gift my husband Mark's parents gave me as a wedding present entirely to my parents, hoping to improve their golden years. In the 4 years after I started working, I consistently gave them nearly $3,000 a year in living expenses, and even proactively paid for their full health insurance. When they decided to buy an apartment for Stephen, who was always idle, and they were short on the down payment, I applied for a $25,000 low-interest personal loan in my name and gave them the money for renovations. Mark knew about everything I did and understood. He told me, "Sarah, I know how much family means to you. If you feel it's the right thing to do, go for it. I'll always support you." His understanding touched me and made me even more convinced that I should do more for my birth family. But I never imagined that my efforts, in their eyes, were simply taken for granted. Now, let's talk about my dear brother, Stephen. His life trajectory was the exact opposite of mine. In middle school, he was obsessed with early romantic relationships and frequently got into fights, eventually being expelled. He was only 15 that year. My dad pulled some strings and sent him to my uncle's painting company as an apprentice, hoping he'd learn a trade. But he quit in less than a month, complaining the work was too hard and dirty, and left without a word. My uncle was furious and called my dad, saying, "I can't control this son of yours. If anything happens, I can't be held responsible." After that, my dad asked my aunt, who ran a seafood business in Florida, to take him in. Stephen stayed there for a week, then disappeared with $2,000 cash my aunt kept as backup at the store. When my aunt called, her voice was trembling, not because of the money, but out of anger and disappointment. We later found out that all $2,000 was lost by Stephen in gambling machines in a single day. That was his first gambling record. Every time he got into serious trouble, my parents would quietly bear the consequences for him, paying the money, apologizing, and then finding him the next fresh start. They never made him truly face his mistakes, let alone any form of punishment or education. I don't recall my dad ever laying a hand on him. In 2022, I was 29 and Stephen was 23. After I got married, Linda saw that Mark's family was well off and that he owned 2 companies, so she got an idea. She more than once hinted to me that she hoped Mark could arrange a decent job for Stephen at his company. "Sarah, look, Stephen's grown up now, he can't just keep messing around like this. Doesn't Mark's company need people? We're family, let him help out, just give him a manager position, that way he'll settle down," Linda said at a family dinner, in front of everyone. A huge red flag went up in my mind. I knew Stephen's overly ambitious and impractical nature all too well. I strongly opposed the suggestion. "Mom, Mark's company has a strict hiring process. Stephen has no education or relevant experience. If he just walks in as a supervisor, how will the people under him respect that? It's not fair to Mark either." "What's not fair? He's your brother-in-law. Are you going to be so clear-cut with your own family? I think you just got married and don't want to deal with your own family's business anymore." Linda's face immediately fell. I couldn't argue with her at the dinner table, so I desperately tried to convince Mark in private. I told him all of Stephen's past misdeeds, including stealing money from my aunt. I said, "Mark, this is a bottomless pit. We can't start this. He'll ruin your company and our lives." Mark was in a tough spot. He loved me, so he wanted to please my family and prove to my parents that he was a trustworthy husband and son-in-law. At my dad's birthday party, Linda brought it up again, and my dad chimed in. After a few drinks, Mark, with his resolve softened, finally agreed. One of Mark's companies was a human resources outsourcing firm, responsible for supplying and managing workers for several large local factories. He arranged a site supervisor position for Stephen, with a good salary and relatively light work. However, Stephen's performance was even worse than I expected. On his first day, he drove his beat-up used car recklessly through the factory, bossing around older workers who were much more senior than him. His favorite phrase was, "Do you know who I am? The boss of this company is my brother-in-law. If you piss me off, I'll have all of you fired." In less than a month, Mark received dozens of complaints about Stephen, harassing female workers, playing games during work hours, arbitrarily deducting workers' wages, and even reselling company materials. Mark talked to him a few times, and each time Stephen verbally promised to change, but then reverted to his old ways. Finally, after Stephen physically assaulted a factory foreman over a minor argument, Mark had had enough and fired him that same day. This decision caused a huge uproar in our family. Stephen played the victim, calling home crying, saying that Mark and I had ganged up to bully him, that we looked down on him for being a poor relative, and that we deliberately set him up to embarrass him. No matter how we explained the truth of the matter, Linda and my dad firmly stood by Stephen. Linda screamed at me over the phone, "Sarah, I never thought you could be so heartless. That's your own brother. Are you just going to stand there and watch your husband kick him out? Is your heart made of stone? You married into money, so you've gotten too big for your britches and don't recognize us poor family members anymore. Is that it?" During that time, I was speechless and exhausted. My relationship with my family hit rock bottom. After being fired, Stephen lay around at home for a few months. Then in 2023, hearing that food delivery made good money, he went to Chicago on his own. At first, he would occasionally send pictures of himself working hard in the family group chat, and Linda would always send a long voice message, worriedly telling him to take care of himself. We all thought this might be the start of his true independence. However, we were all wrong. That prosperous and free land of Chicago didn't make him grow up. Instead, it pushed him into a deeper abyss, online sports betting. Around November, late one night, I received a call from Stephen. His voice was trembling, filled with fear. "Sis, save me. I'm in trouble." My heart sank. What happened? I was playing online sports betting, and I lost money. He stammered. I borrowed from online loan sharks, and now with the rolling interest, it's already $15,000. They're looking for me everywhere, saying if I don't pay them back, they'll break my arms and legs. Sis, you have to save me. I really know I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Hearing the words loan sharks, my mind went blank. After hanging up, I immediately contacted my parents and told them the situation exactly as it was. I used all my rationality and calmness to tell them, Dad, Mom, this is a serious matter. $15,000 isn't a small sum, but for Stephen, this is the best chance for a lesson. We absolutely cannot pay it for him. We should let him face the pressure of the debt collectors himself, let him know what fear is. My husband has a friend who was once a successful businessman, and he lost his wife, family, and everything because of online gambling. Gambling is a bottomless pit. If we help him this time, he'll just think it's okay, because his family will always bail him out, and next time he'll owe even more. I even thought of the next steps for them. Have him proactively negotiate with those illegal lending companies, seek legal aid if necessary, and immediately schedule a gambling addiction counseling appointment for him. However, my rational analysis sounded utterly cold-blooded and heartless to them. On the other end of the line was Linda's hysterical crying. Sarah, are you even speaking like a human being? That's your brother. He's being threatened with a knife right now, and you're just sitting there saying condescending things. Do you want to see something happen to him before you're satisfied? How did I raise such a cold-blooded animal? My dad's voice was also filled with disappointment. Sarah, don't worry about this. We'll figure something out. As a result, they used their meager retirement savings, cobbled together some more from here and there, and easily paid off the $15,000 debt within a few days. Then they brought Stephen back home, treating him like a frightened child, comforting him with kind words every day, never mentioning the dangers or mistakes of gambling. Watching all this, I felt a deep sense of powerlessness. A 23-year-old adult made such a serious mistake, yet received endless doting and protection from his family. In such an environment, how could he truly recognize his own problems? My parents' love was akin to drinking poison to quench their thirst. Sure enough, society soon gave them a louder slap in the face. After recuperating at home for less than 3 months, Stephen fell into the quicksand of gambling again. This time, he owed $25,000, and the reason he gave was simply absurd. He cried to Linda over the phone, Mom, I didn't want to, but when I saw my sister driving that beautiful Tesla, I felt really bad. I'm a man too. I want a good car in my own career. I thought I'd just win a little, enough for a down payment on a car, but I didn't expect. He actually blamed his gambling on comparing himself to me. And that Tesla wasn't even mine. It was Mark's company car for clients, which I only occasionally drove when visiting my parents on weekends. Even more ironically, I clearly remember one time I drove that car home, and Linda, at the dinner table, half jokingly, half seriously told me, Sarah, look how rich Mark is, this Tesla is nothing to him. Why don't you talk to him and have him sell the car to Stephen for $5,000, so your brother can have face in front of his friends? I was so shocked at the time I couldn't speak, only managed an awkward laugh. Afterward, on the way home, Mark asked me incredulously, Your mom, is she crazy? That car's used market value is at least $40,000. I was mortified and could only apologize to him for my mother's unbelievable logic and greed. This time, they came to me again, because their own savings had been completely drained. Linda said on the phone, Sarah, this time you have to help your brother no matter what. It's only $25,000, not a lot of money for you and Mark. Just get through this hurdle, and I promise, I'll keep an eye on him and absolutely not let him touch those things again. I was completely disheartened. I coldly replied, Mom, my money doesn't grow on trees either. My after-tax annual salary is only a little over $80,000. I still have a mortgage to pay, and we have our own life plans. I can't keep paying for Stephen's gambling again and again. What I said last time, I won't repeat a second time. My refusal led to a more intense argument and insults. Eventually, they swallowed their pride again, went around to all the relatives, aunts and uncles, borrowing a little from each, and managed to scrape together $25,000, once again filling Stephen's hole. Afterward, one of my aunts called me, her tone full of reproach. Sarah, I'm not criticizing you, but you were too harsh this time. Your parents are almost sick with worry over your brother's debt. They've lost face with all the relatives they borrowed from. You clearly have the ability. Why couldn't you help? After all, he's your own brother. I spoke into the phone, clearly and precisely. Auntie, precisely because he is my brother, I cannot help him this way. Every penny you lent him wasn't saving him, but pushing him further into the fire. You paid off his debts, but you reinforced his belief that gambling is okay, someone will always pay for me. Next time, he'll owe even more, and then who will pay? After that incident, I woke up completely. I realized that as long as I had any financial involvement with this family, I would be endlessly dragged into this black hole. I stopped the monthly living allowance I gave my parents. I tried to help them in another way. I contacted a highly professional psychologist specializing in gambling addiction, and I was even willing to pay all the consultation fees. I sent the expert's contact information to Linda, and she replied, "Don't come here with your fake sympathy. You have money for a psychologist, but no money to pay your brother's debt? You just want to see our family fail." In her eyes, giving money was the only help. Not giving money was being unfilial, cold, and the greatest evil. I had nothing to say, and I couldn't be bothered to explain anymore. My family and I fell into a prolonged Cold War. Then, this past February, the bomb they had repeatedly covered up and ignored finally detonated in the most tragic way. Stephen's total debt, like a snowball, accumulated to a shocking $120,000. This time, he not only gambled away all the money he could borrow, but he also secretly took the property deed and mortgaged the only apartment under my parents' name, the one I had helped pay to renovate, to an underground money lender. When the debt collection company's call went directly to my father's phone, and when they received that final warning housing foreclosure notice, they finally realized that this disaster, which they had personally orchestrated, had completely spiraled out of control. This time, it was Linda who called me. The moment I answered the phone, what I heard was not the usual accusations and scolding, but a completely broken, aged weeping. "Sarah, my daughter." Her voice was hoarse and trembling. "I'm begging you, you have to save us this time. Stephen, he mortgaged the house. The loan shark said if we don't pay by the end of the month, they'll kick us out." She cried brokenly, telling me what had happened. Finally, she pleaded, "Sarah, lend us $60,000, just $60,000. We'll redeem the house first. The rest of the money, we will figure something out. Mom is begging you, just pity your dad and me. We can't be old and have no place to live." $60,000. The number came out of her mouth so casually. For Stephen, it might have been just a few bets on games, something he could blow through in a single night in the virtual online world. But for me, it was savings mark, and I had painstakingly earned and saved for several years. I held the phone, silent for a long time. The sun was shining outside, but I felt completely cold. In my mind, like a movie playing, all the scenes from the past 20-plus years flashed by. The little girl in the corner longing to be loved, that unremarkable college acceptance letter, Linda's self-righteous expression demanding the Tesla at the dinner table, and her insults and emotional blackmail, time and time again. I took a deep breath, and with a calmness that surprised even myself, I clearly said, "Mom, I'm very sorry to hear all this. But my answer is the same as before. I will not lend you a single cent." The crying on the other end of the line stopped abruptly. What followed was a deathly silence. A few seconds later, Linda's voice became sharp and unfamiliar. "What did you say? Sarah, say that again. Are you going to just stand by and watch us become homeless? Are you trying to kill us? I'm telling you, if we lose this house, I'll die in front of you. I'll make sure everyone knows how you, an unfilial daughter, treat your own parents." "Mom," I interrupted her, "what's driven you to this point isn't me, it's Stephen, and it's yourselves. The first time he owed $15,000, I warned you, but you didn't listen. The second time he owed $25,000, you chose to borrow from relatives to indulge him, and you still didn't listen to my advice. Now, when things have escalated to $120,000 in a house, you suddenly remember to come to this unfilial daughter? I'm sorry, I will not bear these consequences for you." "Fine, fine, fine," she repeated fine 3 times, her voice full of hatred. "Sarah, remember what you said today. From today on, I don't have a daughter, and you don't need to recognize us anymore. We're disowning you." The phone was slammed down. Soon after, I found my WhatsApp blocked by her. My dad also sent a text message with only one sentence. "You have disappointed us greatly." I didn't reply. I sat on the sofa, not crying, not angry, just a sense of exhaustion and emptiness after the dust had settled. I knew I had made an incredibly difficult, yet the only correct decision. However, things didn't end there. A few days later, my phone started getting bombarded by calls from various relatives. They had clearly been instigated by my parents to act as negotiators. The first call was from the aunt who had once lent money to Stephen. "Sarah, your mom is almost sick with worry. How can you be so heartless? What hurdle can a family overcome? Money can be earned again, but if the home is gone, everything is gone. Your brother made a mistake, but you can't just stand by and watch him die." I patiently listened to her finish, then calmly replied, "Auntie, if I give this $60,000 today, does that mean that next time he owes $200,000, I should also pay it for him? Is this helping him or harming him? Your lending him money was out of good intentions, but objectively, you all became accomplices to his gambling. This vicious cycle must be stopped by someone, and I choose to be the one to stop it." Another uncle tried to guilt-trip me from a moral high ground. Sarah, you can't forget your roots. Your parents raised you, paid for your education, and now that they're in trouble, you're just standing by. Where did all your education go? Aren't you afraid of divine retribution for doing this? I cut him off directly, my voice firm and unforgiving. Uncle, I am highly educated, which is why I understand responsibility and boundaries better than anyone. My brother is a fully capable adult. He needs to be responsible for his choices. My parents, as his guardians and educators, also need to be responsible for their continuous indulgence and spoiling. As for me, my responsibility is to support my parents, not to pay off my brother's gambling debts. There's a fundamental difference between the two. This emotional blackmail won't work on me.